Hi guys, today I want to show you how to draw black fur, and I'll be showing you while I'm drawing this little black dog. To create this, I'll be using Polychromos colour pencils and I'll be drawing this on Bristol board. I'm going to particularly focus on showing you how to draw the fur, so I've already drawn the eyes and nose in already. So let's start with the top of the head, and the first thing I like to do is to apply a really light base colour, just as something to work off of. So I'm using warm grey one here, which is my very lightest grey, and what I'm trying to do is create a nice smooth even base layer. So to do this, I'm working in very small little circular motions to try and get this pencil down nice and smooth. As a general rule with colour pencils, I like to start at the lightest and work my way up to the darkest. And this light grey is the lightest colour that I can see on my dog reference photo. Now that I've got a nice smooth base down, I can move on to starting to add the first little bits of fur texture. So I'm going to begin here with my second lightest grey, which is warm grey 3. And what I'm doing here is using soft flicking motions going in the direction of the hair. By soft flicking motions, I literally mean gently brushing the pencil on the paper to create these little flicks. I'm making sort of medium-sized flicks towards the top of the head, and at the bottom by the nose much shorter flicks because it's longer hair at the top than it is where it meets the nose. By starting off doing this with a lighter pencil, not only will it gradually build up the colour and it won't look as harsh, but it also means that if I make any mistakes, they're very easy to cover up with a darker colour in a second. This dog in particular has two little white spots just above its eyes. They kind of look like little white eyebrows. So I am very roughly marking those out as well, just going a little bit darker with this pencil just so I can get a gauge of where they're going to be. Alright, once I'm happy with that, I'm going to move on to the next darkest pencil, which is warm grey 4. You can start to see a little bit clearer now the pencil's darker what I'm doing. Now it's important to mention that black fur isn't actually completely black. It's built up of a number of colours and there is a lot of grey in it. So you can see, just like any fur, there are shadows and highlights, and those together create sort of the shape of the dog and create the illusion of black fur. So we need to build up all of these greys so that we end up with something that looks like black fur. On this photo, the dog has quite dark fur in between his eyes, and then as it goes up, it gets quite light around the top and towards the top of his head. So I am looking at that and following that as I'm drawing this fur. You can see that with this warm grey 4, I am tapering it off towards the edge, and that's because of the highlight I can see around the top. Alright, now I'm happy with that, I'm going to move on to my next darkest colour, which is dark sepia. Now this is the darkest colour I have that isn't black. I'm building this up in exactly the same way, still using the flicking motions, although you can see even clearer now that when I'm between the dog's eyes, the strokes are much closer together and then they fan out towards the edge. I am also still avoiding those little white eyebrows for now. So I'm now going to start using a couple of blues. I've got a dark blue and a light blue. And for the dark blue, I'm going to put it in all of the places where it is going to be really dark. If I'm drawing something like black hair or black fur, I do like to use the dark blue behind the areas of black because it really helps them to pop. So I'm going to put some of this dark blue in the same flicking motions over the middle of this section, and then I'm going to use the light blue on some of the highlights. This will just help give it a little bit more vibrancy. So now I'm going to go back to the dark sepia and add a little bit more in the centre here, just to darken it down a little bit further. And now I'm going to start adding some of the black. Again, mostly to this centre section. I'm being quite light as I'm doing this, I'm not pressing super hard, and I'm still working in these same flicking motions, still going in the direction of the fur. I am also adding a little bit of shading on those little white parts just to make it match the nose. Okay, so right now I would say that this looks like grey fur rather than black fur. So what I need to do is to darken it all down. But rather than working on this section as a little isolated part, I'm going to do exactly the same process for the rest of the dog's head, and then I'm going to come back and work on the face as a whole to darken it down. So I'm working in 3 other smallish sections, a similar size to the top of the head, and I'm working from the lightest to the darkest grey in the same way, adding in a few blues as I go. The only difference on these parts to the top of the head is that some of the fur is longer, particularly around the dog's ears. So to do that, I'm just working in longer flicks, still going in the direction of the fur. And where I get towards the edges of the ears, where there's all of these little flicky, soft pieces of fur at the edge, I'm just being a little bit random in the strokes I make here, just to make it not a super crisp line at the edge. Okay, so now I've drawn out the whole head in the same way, I can go back to this top section. And I'm going to go back to using the black pencil. What I want to do is make the darks darker. So I'm going to slightly change my method and stop working in flicking motions. What I want to do now is apply a bit more colour. So I'm going to work in little circular motions like I did with the light grey pencil at the beginning and start deepening the colours. Now I'm not being super harsh with the pencil as I'm doing this, although I do want to build up a decent amount of colour and make it quite deep black, because it will take away all of the strokes that I was making up until this point. So I'm going to rely on building up the colour gradually, and I'm just going to keep adding to it until it's as dark as I would like. I'm going to do exactly the same for the rest of the head, and then I can continue doing that for the body. And then that's it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a like and don't forget to click the subscribe and the notify bell so you never miss an art tutorial. Happy drawing, guys. I'll see you in the next one.